The courtroom camera caught the exact moment a millionaire's wife made the worst mistake of her life. Victoria Ashford Sterling stood in front of Judge Judy covered in diamonds, wearing a designer suit, carrying a handbag worth more than most people's cars. She looked calm, confident, untouchable. Then she opened her mouth and said the words that destroyed her entire case. "Your Honor, you clearly don't understand how business works at my level." The courtroom went silent. Nobody moved, nobody spoke, because everyone in that room understood something Victoria did not. You do not insult Judge Judy's intelligence. And what Victoria didn't know was even worse. Judge Judy had already done her homework. Before Victoria ever stepped into that courtroom, Judge Judy had pulled public records, previous wage claims, old settlements, and government findings that would expose the truth behind every lie this wealthy woman was about to tell. This was not just a case about unpaid wages. This was a case about arrogance, power, exploitation, and one hardworking woman who finally decided she would not stay silent anymore. And before the day was over, Victoria Ashford Sterling would walk into that courtroom like royalty. But she would walk out exposed, humiliated, and legally defeated. The plaintiff was Emma Rodriguez, a 52-year-old housekeeper who had spent most of her life cleaning homes, raising her family, and working harder than the people who looked down on her ever could. Emma was suing Victoria for $8,500 in unpaid wages. She said she had worked inside Victoria's luxury home for 2 years. She said Victoria had paid her in cash for most of that time. And she said that during the final 3 months, Victoria stopped paying completely, while still expecting her to show up, clean the house, and keep working like nothing was wrong. On paper, it looked like a simple wage dispute. But from the moment Victoria entered the courtroom, it became clear this case was going to be something much bigger. Victoria walked in wearing a Chanel suit, diamond earrings, a bracelet that flashed under the courtroom lights, and an expression that made it obvious she believed this whole situation was beneath her. She placed her expensive handbag on the table like it was proof that she belonged to a different class of people. She barely looked at Emma. She barely looked at the courtroom staff, and when the bailiff asked her to silence her phone, she rolled her eyes as if even that small instruction was an insult. Across from her, Emma stood quietly in simple black pants and a white blouse. She was not wearing diamonds. She was not carrying an expensive purse. She had something much more powerful, a worn binder filled with photographs, messages, records, and proof. Her hands trembled slightly, not because she was weak, but because after 2 years of being ignored, dismissed, and treated like she did not matter, she was finally standing in front of someone who could make Victoria listen. Judge Judy entered the courtroom, and everyone rose. She sat down, opened the case file, adjusted her glasses, and looked at both women. Her expression was calm. But anyone who knew Judge Judy's courtroom knew that calm did not mean harmless. It meant she was watching listening testing and waiting for the truth to reveal itself. "Mrs. Ashford Sterling," Judge Judy began, "Messrs. Rodriguez claims she worked as your housekeeper for 2 years and that you owe her $8,500 for the final 3 months of her employment. Is that correct?" Victoria did not even wait for her lawyer. She lifted one hand dismissively, her bracelet sparkling as she spoke. "Your Honor, I have multiple properties and many staff members. I can't be expected to remember every person who may have worked in one of my homes." Judge Judy looked up. "So you are saying Ms. Rodriguez did work for you?" Victoria paused. For the first time, her confidence cracked for half a second. Then she recovered. "What I'm saying is that people come and go. Housekeepers, gardeners, contractors. My life is very busy. This woman may have been around, but I don't remember her personally." Judge Judy turned to Emma. "Ms. Rodriguez, what proof do you have?" Emma opened her binder carefully. "Your Honor, I have photographs of myself inside Mrs. Sterling's home. I have text messages from her number giving me cleaning instructions. I have my work schedule showing I worked every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening. And I have a neighbor who saw me entering and leaving the home regularly. The bailiff handed the evidence to Judge Judy. The photographs were clear. Emma in the kitchen, Emma in the library, Emma in the master bedroom, redomes filled with expensive furniture, artwork, and details that were unmistakably from Victoria's home. Victoria laughed softly. It was not a nervous laugh. It was worse. It was condescending. Your Honor, with all due respect, you probably haven't managed a household staff of this size. These photos could have been taken during a party or an open house. Anyone can save a phone number and claim messages came from me. Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses. The courtroom became still. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, she said, I have been practicing law since before you were born. I have handled cases involving families, money, fraud, children, violence, and every kind of lie people can invent. Try me. But Victoria did not understand the warning. Instead, she leaned deeper into her own arrogance. I'm simply saying that people at a certain economic level operate differently. Managing domestic staff is complicated. Payroll, cash payments, assistants, household managers. These things are not always black and white. Judge Judy's voice became quieter, and somehow that made it more dangerous. I understand perfectly. Continue. Emma then presented text messages, mish after message. Emma, please clean the guest bathrooms before Thursday. Emma, use the special polish on the dining table. Emma, come early Monday. I need you there at 8. The messages were specific. They mentioned rooms, schedules, guests, cleaning products, and household instructions. Judge Judy read them carefully. These messages span almost 2 years, she said. And you still claim you don't remember this woman? Victoria shifted in her chair. I'm a busy woman. Sometimes assistants send messages from my phone. Sometimes other staff handle these things. But if she truly worked for me the way she claims, there would be proper paperwork, contracts, tax forms, official records. Then she looked at Emma like she had won. But there aren't any, are there? Emma quietly held up another document. I have one check from Mrs. Sterling. It was for my first month of work. After that, she told me she preferred to pay cash. She said it was easier and better for both of us. I needed the job, so I agreed. Judge Judy examined the check. It is from your account, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, made out to Emma Rodriguez, dated 2 years ago. Victoria's lawyer tried to speak, but Victoria cut him off. She was still convinced she could talk her way out. Your Honor, you clearly don't understand the tax optimization strategies that people at my wealth level use. No offense, but small claims court probably doesn't expose you to sophisticated financial planning. The silence after that sentence was heavy. Even her lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Judge Judy slowly set her glasses down. So you are admitting you paid her in cash to avoid reporting employment taxes? Victoria's eyes widened. She realized too late what she had done. No, I'm saying the cash payments she claims never happened because she never worked for me consistently. Then she added the sentence that made everything worse. This is her word against mine. And frankly, Your Honor, you are taking the word of a cleaning lady over mine. Judge Judy leaned back. A small smile appeared on her face. Not a warm smile, a warning smile. I am taking evidence over arrogance, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, but please continue digging the hole you are standing in. Victoria continued. She claimed Emma was lying. She claimed Emma was trying to scam her because she was rich. She claimed there was no formal employment relationship, no obligation, no agreement, no reason to pay. Emma stood quietly as Victoria painted her as dishonest, desperate, and manipulative. But Emma did not interrupt. She did not scream. She did not fight back with emotion. She waited, because she had something Victoria never expected her to have. Proof. Judge Judy asked Victoria one final question before the case turned completely. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, is it your sworn testimony that Emma Rodriguez never worked directly for you as your personal housekeeper. Victoria sat up straight. Yes, Your Honor, that is absolutely correct. You are certain? I am completely certain. Judge Judy nodded slowly. Interesting. Then she reached below her bench and pulled out a thick manila folder. The folder landed on the bench with a soft thud. But in that courtroom, it sounded like thunder. Victoria glanced at it. For the first time, her face changed. Judge Judy opened the folder. These are public records, she said. Records I pulled before you walked into this courtroom. Records I have been reviewing while you sat here insulting my intelligence. Victoria swallowed. What kind of records? Judge Judy pulled out the first document. In 2021, a woman named Lucia Santos filed a wage claim against you with the Rhode Island Department of Labor. Do you remember her? Victoria touched her necklace. That was a misunderstanding. Judge Judy continued. According to the Department of Labor, you paid Ms. Santos in cash for 7 months, then stopped paying her for 3 more months while she continued working. You eventually settled for $11,000. The findings specifically stated that you had a pattern of paying domestic workers off the books. Victoria's lawyer stood. Your Honor, that matter was settled confidentially. Judge Judy looked at him. Counselor, your client just testified that she does not have this kind of employment problem with household staff. These are public records, and I am establishing a pattern. Sit down. The lawyer sat. Victoria's face had gone pale. Judge Judy pulled out another document. In 2019, you were sued by Carmen Gonzalez, another domestic worker, also for unpaid wages. That case described the same pattern. You hired her, paid her cash, stopped paying her, and then denied she was ever your employee. You settled that case for $12,000. Victoria's voice was smaller now. My husband's attorneys handled that. I wasn't involved in the details. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. Your husband's attorneys? A few minutes ago, you told me you manage your household staff, your properties, your domestic employees, and your payroll decisions. So which is it? Are you the sophisticated manager you claim to be? Or are you a woman who hides behind her husband's money when her behavior gets exposed? Victoria opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Judge Judy was not finished. She pulled out another paper. 6 months ago, you settled a wage dispute with Rosa Martinez. You paid her $9,000 to avoid going to court. Victoria whispered, that was different. Judge Judy's voice rose. It is very relevant. Rosa Martinez is Emma Rodriguez's cousin. She warned Emma about you. She told Emma that you had done the same thing to her. Emma has messages from Rosa telling her not to work for you because you would not pay her. The courtroom went completely silent. Now the story was no longer about one housekeeper. It was about a pattern, a method, a system. Judge Judy looked directly at Victoria. Let me tell you what I see. I see a woman who hires vulnerable workers, especially immigrant women who need money and may be afraid to fight back. You pay them cash for a while, then stop paying them. When they complain, you deny they ever worked for you. And when they take legal action, you settle quietly and move on. Victoria started crying. Your Honor, please, I can explain. Judge Judy struck the bench with her hand. Explain what? That you exploit people who clean your home, wash your floors, and make your life comfortable? That you pay them under the table and then refuse to pay them at all? Which part would you like to explain? Victoria's voice shook. They wanted cash. I was doing them a favor. Judge Judy stared at her with disgust. So now they are the criminals? Every woman who worked for you just happened to demand cash, just happened to lie, and just happened to claim you owed them money? How convenient. Emma began crying quietly, not because she felt defeated, because for the first time, someone with authority was saying out loud what she had lived through in silence. Judge Judy held up the Department of Labor summary. The official finding says you engaged in a deliberate and systematic pattern of exploiting domestic workers, paying them in cash to avoid payroll obligations, and terminating them without final payment when they requested proper compensation. She closed the folder. That is not Emma's opinion. That is not my opinion. That is the finding of a government agency. Victoria was sobbing now. The diamonds, the designer suit, the expensive handbag. None of it protected her anymore. Judge Judy leaned forward. You walked into my courtroom assuming your money made you more believable. You assumed Emma Rodriguez was not smart enough to document her work. You assumed I was not thorough enough to check public records. You were wrong on every count. Victoria tried one final move. Your Honor, I'll pay her now. Double, triple. Can we just settle this today? Judge Judy gave a cold laugh. Now you want to settle? After calling her a liar? After saying she tried to scam you? After denying she worked for you? You don't get to lie under oath and then buy your way out when you get caught. Emma stood a little straighter. Your Honor, I don't want triple. I only want what she owes me. I worked for that money. I earned it. I cleaned her house for 3 months while she made excuses. My daughter needed textbooks. I needed rent. Mrs. Sterling had money for bags, jewelry, and vacations, but not for the woman cleaning her floors. Judge Judy nodded. Ms. Rodriguez, your dignity in this courtroom has been remarkable. You came prepared. You brought evidence. You told the truth. You did not exaggerate. You simply asked for what you earned. Then she turned back to Victoria. Mrs. Victoria Ashford Sterling, I find in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of $8,500 for unpaid wages. Victoria exhaled, but Judge Judy raised her hand. I am not finished. The courtroom froze again. I am also awarding an additional $8,500 in punitive damages for your malicious conduct, your pattern of exploitation, and your false testimony in this courtroom. That is $17,000 total, due immediately. Gasps filled the room. Victoria looked stunned. Your Honor, that is excessive. Judge Judy cut her off. I am still not finished. Victoria went silent. I am referring this matter to the Internal Revenue Service for investigation into possible tax fraud involving multiple domestic workers. I am also referring it to the Department of Labor for further investigation into your pattern of wage theft. And this judgment, along with the evidence presented today, will remain part of the public record. No confidentiality agreement, no sealed settlement, no hiding this time. Victoria collapsed into her chair. Her lawyer stared down at the table. Emma stood with tears on her face, but her head was high. Judge Judy looked at her. Ms. Rodriguez, you did everything right. You kept records. You saved messages. You gathered evidence. You refused to be intimidated by money, status, or arrogance. You should be proud of yourself. Emma whispered, Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for believing me. Judge Judy's expression softened slightly. I believed the evidence. That is what justice requires. Evidence, not emotion. Then she looked one last time at Victoria. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, you had every advantage. Money, comfort, opportunity, and power. You could have used those advantages to treat people with dignity. Instead, you used them to exploit people who had less than you. That is not a mistake. That is a character flaw. And character flaws are harder to fix than legal problems. She paused. Get out of my courtroom. Victoria left with her designer handbag clutched against her chest, her perfect image shattered. Emma walked out with her cousin beside her, holding her head higher than she had in years. And when the footage spread online, people watched it again and again because it showed something powerful. Money can buy luxury. Money can buy lawyers. Money can buy silence for a while. But money cannot defeat documented truth in front of a judge who has already done her homework. Victoria Ashford Sterling entered that courtroom believing her wealth made her untouchable. Emma Rodriguez entered with a binder full of evidence and a simple demand, paid me what I earned. And in the end, that was enough, because arrogance may be loud, power may look impressive, but when the truth is written down, saved, printed, organized, and placed in front of the right judge, justice can still speak louder than all of it.